whose results were uploaded and accepted locally here in Kenya, regionally and internationally. And I believe it was the only general election in the multi-party era, and that is after we amended the constitution, where no election petition was filed challenging the election of the president. So what I'm trying to say, when you consider these issues in a sober manner, don't try to demonize the fact that political parties should not nominate. I think that should be on the table, because our history has shown it, as I've seen it. The chairman, so I've mentioned about the first government control electoral commission, the second commissions nominated by political parties, and now the third is what we have been experiencing since in 2007. The third is the so-called commissions, which are expert-based, where the election board, through advertising, interviewing, and selecting the members on merit. This has been Kenya's experience under the new constitution. This looks good on paper and has many points in its favor. However, the electoral commission so appointed have not inspired confidence up to now. But its major merit is that the members are supposed to be experts, they are non-partisan, and not affiliated to a political party. However, we have noticed that the selection board, they rarely agree, even on method of scoring points, and that method can also be interfered with by ensuring that a member gives very high points to the one he favors and very low to the one he doesn't like, so that when it comes to average, somebody goes through. And in fact, I believe you have heard here allegations that even on the last electoral commission, some of the commissioners, although it was through that system, that some of the commissioners were appointed as a result of maneuverings by certain political powers or political or eminent politicians. So it can also be manipulated, in other words. To cut a long story short, what is my proposal? My proposal and recommendations, having studied the three matters of appointing commissioners, is that we have a mixed system of some commissioners nominated by political parties and some commissioners appointed through a refined system that we now have. In this way, the benefits from both ways can be realized. I suggest that what I'm suggesting here can be refined in further discussions, particularly amongst you and amongst the political parties and other key stakeholders. I suggest that the top 2 or 3 political parties should nominate people for appointment, direct appointment to the Electoral Commission. And they should, the top 2 or 3 should nominate 1 commissioner each. And the rest of the political parties should jointly nominate 1. The persons to be nominated, that's a procedure, by the political parties should meet the set criteria, which I've already mentioned, is the criteria that I used and which the political party leaders accepted and which they implemented because they gave me real proper names. People of integrity, well-known reputation and whatnot. They gave me those names, and out of which we appointed that criteria can be used by the political parties in suggesting the names. This can, of course, be refined properly. This will enable the Commission to have persons of gravitas and also experts. The persons of gravitas, you see, people who, if you appoint, the country will just say, yeah, that one they agree. You know, such a person, I can tell you, is not likely to apply and be subjected for shortlisting and for appearing before a panel of youngsters and whatnot and so on. He will not. But such a person can only be appointed by elder statesmen who are the party leaders or leaders of a coalition of parties, just directly without any problem. So this system will enable such persons to be appointed rather than this other system that we are having. And so once the political parties are appointed, then the balance of the commission can be appointed through the system that we have with proper amendments to take care of the weaknesses that we have seen them have. For that, what I would suggest on the issue of reconstituting the commission. And probably the political parties liaison committee, constituted under Article 38 of the Political Parties Act, could play a role, and therefore the Act should be amended for it to play that role. The other suggestions I would suggest under this is that we are taking into account the decisions of the Supreme Court in the various election petitions and so on how the EC operates and functions. Some amendments ought to be made to the various laws to make clear that the chairman of the Electoral Commission does not act on his own, but he acts on the decision of the Commission, on a decision that collectively arrived at. And that before even they announce the presidential elections, they must then have looked at Form 34C, which shows the results of the presidential elections, and not just a summary of what the result of each county. That's not a verification, that is not tally. But that law needs to be tightened so that we are on proper footing. And the other point under the, you had me to address you on was audit of the 2022 presidential election. The Supreme Court has exclusive jurisdiction to hear and determine disputes relating to the elections to the office of the President. And his decision is final, Article 142. To my mind, the audit cannot change or reverse the decision of the Supreme Court through a constitutional and legal process. The audit is like a post-mortem, which cannot revive a dead body, but can tell you the cause of the death. And that's what we want to know in this audit. We want to know and identify the shortcomings, the weaknesses, the loopholes, or the shortfalls which should be rectified before the next election. In fact, this is the only way you can improve on the electoral processes and instill confidence of the people in it. In my mind, in fact, such audits that we are asking for, it should be held after every general election, proper audit, so that we can progressively improve our electoral systems. Many election observers have observed that normally the election process up to the polling day was credible and counting in the polling stations was technically professional. The problem lies in tallying, tabulation, and declaration of results. The issue of whether or not the server should be opened has engaged the public debate for some time now. The more debate on this matter goes on, the more suspicions are created or raised that where there is no smoke, there must be some fire. This has left a doubt or a lingering thought in the minds of people that it may not be that the figures in the portal are different from the figures in the server. That it may not be, but it could be so. And this may repeat itself in the next election. If the same is not cleared, if these doubts are not cleared, it could erode confidence in future elections and reduce the figure of people participating in such elections. I am therefore recommending and proposing that a law should be enacted to make servers automatically open and accessible to anyone, that as soon as the presidential elections are declared. In other words, as soon as the presidential elections are declared, and that's normally the last to be declared, the server should be open, and it should be open and accessible to whoever wants to access it. Rather than these arguments we have been having in 2013, 2017 with the court, go and open the observer. Oh, we cannot open because of some foreign company has some rights, I don't know, intellectual right over it, we can't just interfere. I think it should be very clear to whoever comes to assist us that the servers will be open. And we can only do that if we make it law that the server will be open as soon as the results are declared, and will be accessible to every person, and even those who want to file petitions now, they can use it, the information there to file their petitions. Last, permit me, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I've been a Pan-Africanist since I was in intermediate school, before I went to Alliance High School in the area of Mheshimiwa. But I've taken notice of the fact that the leaders of the two coalitions which constitute this committee are believers, are also Pan-Africanists and believers in the greater political, economic, social integration of East Africa and indeed Africa region as a whole, as a stepping stone for faster economic development for the benefit of our people. But what I'm going to say again is relevant to Article 43, is relevant to the rising costs, is relevant to stabilizing our economy and making sure that it can take off, can grow at an accelerated pace. In BBI, we recommended an amendment to the Constitution, and we had a new Article 10A, which reads as follows. 10A, regional integration and cohesion. This constitution embraces the goals of African unity and political confederation of the Eastern Africa region as integral towards attainment of sustainable development, prosperity for all, and stability. So I'm recommending to you that you also recommend such a clause in terms of the economic and social rights, that we also have that clause in our constitution. That was my little thing. Now, just for the verbal thing, number one, I looked at your terms of reference, and I wasn't sure whether you can recommend additional or reduction of counties. I was not very sure on that, and therefore I did not write my thoughts down. But since it appeared before you, just on the off the cuff, I can tell you that that's a very sensitive matter. I can say, in a sense, I was sort of responsible for the 47 counties, because if you followed the arguments at that time, some were suggesting over 100, some were suggesting about 14, some were suggesting 18, and there was no way forward. But when I suggested that we just follow the districts which had been recognized in law, in the independent and boundaries on the Provincial and District Boundaries Act, which I piloted through Parliament in 1992, that we just accept that as a model, and so the 47 counties, everybody agreed, and we have 47 counties. Now, to take the very grave step to add, or take a very grave step to deduct, I suggest it's not a matter that can be lightly handled through a committee which has limited time and which has more pressing, important issues to decide. And therefore, I suggest that if you think that there's some merit in either adding and either reducing, maybe you recommend that the matter be separately handled properly by another body or whatever, people to look into the matter more carefully. That's number two. Two, I also had some suggestions, but I think here you are within your mandate. I have been a senator, and I'm glad the leader of majority is here. He worked very well, and he has really matured over a very short time. He keeps a very young man and he has matured so quickly. And actually, there are two senators. One is him, and the other one is now the governor of Nandi. They have followed their career, and they have done very well. And I must pay a tribute for the system that allows such young people to come up and progress. I feel that